I'll start with the prayer, then the pledge by Julio, and the prayer is by Reese. Okay, by Reese. He's a veteran, and so he's still an officer in the Legion. Are you still an officer in the American Legion? Or?
No.
Okay, he's a former officer in the American Legion, and then we'll make some introductions for the candidates who are here, besides the gentleman who you all are here to see today. And then we are going to give them, do you want 2 or 5 minutes?
I need about 3. So, yeah.
Okay, up to 5 minutes.
Make it a minute and a half then.
to introduce themselves. And then Joel Wright is the moderator today. He was the first ledge chair that I've ever met, and he was the chair of old Ledge 57 back in the 2000s.
And member of the state school board.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Stop.
And
Just troublemakers. That's all.
okay, so Reese.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful to be here tonight. We are thankful for a community that desires to participate in finding those who are the right people to serve in our communities. We thank you for those who desire to serve and help us to be a community that is strong and resilient. We ask them, Father, to bless us all tonight. The stability that comes with this work. We ask thy Spirit to be with us in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Sergeant First Class Julio Homer.
Could you guys rise? If you have a hat on, please remove it. Please repeat after me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we have Cindy Davis. Can you please stand?
2-minute intro and then 1
Cindy?
minute for everything else.
She is running for Utah State School Board of Education.
And sure.
And now we have Sheriff Smith. He's in the back.
Yeah.
And Adam Pomeroy. He's running for Utah County Attorney. And then Russ J. Rampton, Utah. Yeah, he's running for Utah County Clerk. And Amber.
Bonner.
Okay. Amber Bonner, Alpine School District Board, seat number 4. She covers Alpine, Highland, Cedar Hills, Draper, and American Fork.
So we are going to only give you guys an hour. Okay. Sorry, and we're only going to give you 2 minutes to make your intro. If you can't make a good intro in 2 minutes, then I don't think you deserve a vote anyway. We are going to go A, B, C, and then B, C, A, and then C, A, B. So each person will get a first. So we're going to have Rod go first this time, and then we'll go in order, and then we will be rotating it each time. So Rod,
I can be the timekeeper.
Okay, Aaron's doing it as well. We'll have Craig do it. And,
let Aaron do it.
And it's okay. So you have 2 minutes.
Intro.
2 minutes right now, and then after that you'll get 1 minute on each question. And if, in my sole discretion, if I think someone's attacked directly or by name, that person may get a 30-minute chance to rebut. 30 seconds.
Rudy is prepared with a 30-minute rebuttal, so be careful.
Don't say each other's names. Don't do
I
it.
appreciate that. Okay, Rod, your 2 minutes have begun.
Okay, I am Rod Mann. I am so glad you're here. Wow, I am surprised that there's so many people.
So when you are looking at elected officials, one of the questions you need to answer for yourself is why is someone being elected to that position? And if the answer is to be accountable to you and to the other people in the county, then that changes a little bit of the matrix that you're going to use on qualifying criteria. As someone who is accountable, you're going to want somebody that's transparent, that communicates.
None of us can see back here. We'll never know what you look like even.
Okay, so then I will.
Yeah, go ahead and stand. It's fine.
There we go.
So anyway, you want somebody then that is transparent and accountable to you and shares information. And I've served 4 years as mayor of Highland City, before that 4 years as city council member. And during my term of office, that was one of my focuses, is being transparent. So I had a blog. I have over 220 posts, one of which is used by the county today to help explain how taxes work, because I had residents that complained about it. And I wrote something up. It's difficult, but I wrote it up, and now it's used all over the place. I didn't plan on that happening, but that's how it works. I held meetings all the time. As mayor, I had monthly meetings with residents. I called it Meet the Mayor. I have demonstrated an ability and a willingness to be transparent and communicate. So I think that's to my credit. Now, when you hire somebody for a position, you also want to know they have some of the skills that are going to be required. In the case of this new audit position, there are 18 people that work under there. So you have to have some administrative skills.
10 seconds.
I was in IT for 30 years. I was a manager for 25 and a senior executive. And I think I'm qualified to be your representative. And be
Thank you very much. Taylor, 2 minutes.
I haven't even started talking and they're already clapping. You guys are amazing. I'm actually just curious, by show of hands, how many of you are first-time delegates? This is what I love about Utah's caucus convention system. I remember the first time I was delegate years and years ago, I got to ask the governor candidates questions, and I fell in love with it ever since. But I digress. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate this process. So my name is Taylor Williams. I am the current chief of staff in the Utah County Clerk Auditor's Office. So a little bit of background. They have decided to split the clerk auditor's office into 2 different positions. So we're electing an independent clerk, independent auditor. So there's a little bit of background for the people who need to know. Very quickly, I think the question that I want to answer is, what is the purpose of an elected official? And this is my personal opinion. It's twofold. First off, it's somebody that's meant to serve as a buffer between the public that elected them and overseeing the office which they administer. As an elected official, I will commit to continue to preserve the conservative principles that I have fought for years on end. You'll hear a little bit more of my background as we go throughout the night. The second thing is that you want somebody that has leadership experience. As the current chief of staff in the auditor's office, I've been running the day-to-day operations since I joined Josh Daniels when he won the special election last year. I look forward to this debate this evening. Thank you again for those that are serving as county delegates.
Unlike Taylor, I know that response was for him, not for me. 2 minutes is a little bit shorter than I was preparing for, but that's okay. My name is Rudy Livingston, and I am really prepared to be the county auditor. I've asked a lot of people outside of the auditor's office what the auditor does, and quite frankly, they haven't got a clue. Most people in this county have no clue what the county auditor does. Well, literally, the county auditor is the guardian of your taxpayer dollars. The guardian is the chief financial officer for the county. And my belief is that as a chief financial officer, that person should be skilled in finance. That person should have experience. And quite frankly, I come to the table with 25 years of direct experience in government finance. I've been a government auditor for 7 years. I've been a finance director and treasurer for local government for 9 years. I've had 10 years of experience in the budget area and more than 15 years of experience as a governmental auditor. I am a CPA who is specialized in governmental accounting and governmental operations. I believe that if I get a chance to meet you and talk with you, I will be able to let you know why you truly should vote for me. And not only do I have all this level of experience, but I have experience leading finance operations. I've done that for 20 years, leading government finance professionals in doing their jobs. I believe that if you were to look to a city to hire a finance director, I think every mayor in the county and every city council member and every city manager would be looking for the most qualified finance professional to do that. And while I respect these good gentlemen that are with me here, I'm the only one that brings that to the table. Thank you very much.
For the candidates, always start your time when you begin speaking, so you don't need to worry about applause or other things like that. This next, for all the remaining questions, you have 1 minute, and I'll give you a 10-second warning, and then I will cut you off. So you have to be efficient. That's a good thing in an auditor. You're elected independent. The county commissioners don't just appoint someone. You know, in some executive branches, like the president, they choose, you know, many of the offices. In Utah, we do it differently. Our governor doesn't get to choose the state school board. He doesn't get to choose his attorney general or auditor or treasurer. We don't do that at the county level. Is that good or bad to have that tension? Should you be separately elected, or should the executive just appoint you? Is that tension healthy or bad? We'll start with Taylor on this one.
So, I mean, in my own self-interest, right, we should definitely elect an auditor. There is a value in having tensions of power between elected officials, right? The founders and the framers were very smart when they put separation of powers into the Constitution of the United States. A little bit of background, I studied constitutional law when I was at college at the Center for Constitutional Studies at UVU, and I will often refer to my constitutional beliefs and principles when answering questions, and I'll take those same principles and beliefs to the county auditor's office to protect your taxpayer dollars, to keep taxes low, etc. The founders and framers knew that without political tension, you would create a tyranny of one position. We've seen that in the president of the United States was becoming an uber president, where basically power has been assumed over time because these other positions are delegating away their power. Once again, political tension of separation of powers and checks and balances is absolutely essential.
Thank you. Rudy.
It's absolutely crucial to have separation. This is a point that actually I fought for about a year ago. I don't know if you were all tuning in when the county commissioners tried to pull the budget office right underneath them. I fought back. And because I fought back, there's now a current bill in the Utah State Senate or legislature to ban that potential for doing that. Because I believe you have to have that separation. We set the budget, the tentative budget. And without that separation, the commissioners would have full run over every dollar that is in the coffers. And we can't have that. As a CPA, that's one of our basic founding principles is of independence. We need to think independently. We need to look at things independently. We need to look at them in the best way possible and figure out the best way to do things.
10 seconds.
Now, we work closely with the commissioners, but we absolutely have to be independent.
One of the statutory powers of the Office of the Auditor is that they can choose who they audit on a financial basis. If we were unelected, then you would have a boss and they could influence you. As an independent elected person, you have a degree of freedom that you wouldn't have otherwise. So in the case of the auditor's office, I think it's essential that that be the case. Now, if you want to do performance audits, you have to get buy-in from the commission. But for the financial audits, that's the power that you have, is to go and investigate at your own discretion. And I value that, and I think that's very important. I think it needs to be independent.
Next question will start with Rudy. Some people kind of view the auditor's office more passive. You know, that's kind of been somewhat in the past. John Doodle at the state level has been a very aggressive state auditor, sticking his neck out. Some people like it, some people don't. What do you think of that, and will you emulate that or be more passive? Start with Rudy.
That is a fantastic question, and I absolutely love it. You can see by my gray hairs that I'm not young. I don't intend to be in this office for years and years and years and years. So because of that, I can go out and be aggressive with everything I want to do. But there's aggressive in a negative way and aggressive in a positive way. I'm going to be aggressive with working with all the departments in the county to make them better. And that's one of my goals and my missions that I have. I'm going to be aggressive with building transparency on all of our financial data. I don't know about you, but I think our budget reporting has been terrible in the past, and that one of the things I'm going to change is so that every one of you can understand what's going on. I'm going to be aggressive and working for the right things for the county. And we will uncover things that maybe are bad. We'll highlight things that are good, and we'll make things that are good better, and we'll make things that are bad
10
good.
seconds.
I think it's important for me to be aggressive. I don't have to worry about getting reelected in 4 years. So I can do all the aggressiveness that I want to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
I really like what John Dougal's done. He's made the office more transparent. You can go online and find all kinds of things now. I would like to see that here. I've read through most of the audits that have been done, and there's some good information in there. I wish it was more public. I wish we did reports to the commission and made them public. I wish, for example, the county would do what Highland has done with an annual budget open house. So when we have a tentative budget, we invite residents to come, we entice them with kiddie toys and what have you, but we have charts and graphs available for people to look at. So I think being aggressive at being transparent is exactly what I do and what I would continue, what I've done and what I would continue to do as the auditor. And I would try and find ways to make sure that everybody that wants to be informed can be informed, and that information gets to them in a way that they can consume it readily. Thank you.
I love how that we already are championing John Dougal here. It's interesting to note that John Dougal actually is not a CPA by trade. And many people would argue that he is the best state auditor that we have had in decades. It's also interesting to note that our current county auditor nor the previous auditor were auditors by trade, which goes to show, in my mind, that having vision and leadership and following conservative principles is really what the auditor's office needs to do. Second thing, if you're big into education, John Dougal has made an amazing dashboard at the state level talking about where your education dollars are going. Go check it out. Lastly, having been within the office, I've seen behind the scenes, and there are three things that we need to do. We need to finish the analysis that we currently don't have because we've been understaffed for so long. We finally have the professionalism we need. Second, we need to create key performance indicators for positions across the county, and that will allow us to get to data-driven decisions, which is essentially the gold standard for all businesses.
Time. Thank you very much. Next question, starting with Rod. Tell us at least one good thing and one thing you'd like to see changed at the auditor's office.
I think it's Rudy's turn.
Is it Rudy's turn first?
I was first last time.
My apologies.
My apologies.
Did I get it wrong? Okay. Rod.
One thing that is good is, and I've looked into it, that I've heard no complaints about the budget office, that Rudy's doing a really good job. He's moved the needle forward, and I appreciate that. I think where we're not doing such a good job is communicating to residents and making it easy for residents to find out what is the budget, where is the money going, where we just did an audit, what did we learn and how are we going to get better? You can find that in the audit reports, but we aren't doing as good a job as we could be at publicizing it. I would work on
that. Taylor?
Can you repeat the question?
One thing that's going well, the auditor's office, and one thing you'd like to see changed, at least.
So, thank you for repeating that. The biggest thing is that the auditor's office has undergone a massive transformation in the last 4 years. So 4 years ago, the incumbent lost and Amelia Powers Garden was elected in, and her and Josh Daniels have basically turned this office around from a shipwreck to a streamlined carrier. So I have to give them credit to understand where the office is currently compared to where it was. They've gotten it to this level. What I'm going to do is take it to the next level, which is to, once again, get to the data-driven decisions that we need. Government is an administrative function by its nature, and we should be tracking every metric that your county tax dollars go into. And I know that Rudy's going to get into this, but we are actually currently working on a budget book to increase this level of transparency. One thing that I want to do to get to the question is we need to get the data that we currently don't have, so the decisions we're making are focused on spending your tax dollars
Sorry for no
effectively.
10-second warning.
This is a really good question. I came in, and as I mentioned previously, we had a sucky budget, I'll be honest with the presentation. We have actually, my office went out and we got a new budget system that will allow us to do analysis, that will allow the departments to own their own budgets. We have been implementing a budget book, and I wish I could spend 10 minutes talking about that budget book because it's going to provide transparency down to the division level at the county, and it's going to be available to where people can read it. What we need to do is find a way to get that out to people. But Taylor's mentioned performance measures a couple of times. We already have performance measure in place. What we don't have is consistently good performance measures. And my office is going to be working with the departments to build upon what we have right now. In fact, and actually get them to the point where they are good and meaningful and they help to govern and drive their operations and performance.
Thank you very much. We have 2 seats up here.
3 seats.
3 seats up here. So maybe you folks are like into standing. That's okay. But we'd love to see you if you could. We're so grateful that you're here.
Go back.
This next question, I'm going to use some discretion, and you're going to get 90 seconds to answer it. And we're going to start with Taylor.
Rod, what's your last name?
Mann, M-A-N-N. This question is as follows. Have you had an experience in your life where you uncovered fraud or wrongdoing and were pressured to not do something, and how did you handle it? 90 seconds each.
I think that everybody can relate that throughout their life, we have these conflicts of interest, right? We have these battles within our conscience. This is a part of human nature, right? Something that we all experience. Everybody can relate to that. Some of them big, some of them small. One thing that I know that people that will say about me, if they know me and they've worked with me, is that I'm a person of integrity, and that I will ensure that as the elected official, I am being forthright and honest, that I'm letting you know what's going on in the office, that as an elected official, you're aware how your tax dollars are being spent. If there's fraud, waste, or abuse, I will definitely make that known. One of the things that we've done within the auditor's office is dramatically ramp up the internal audit function. Me and our director of finance have put an amazing amount of effort trying to dig deeper into the operations of the county in a way that hasn't been done for years and years and years on end. Thank you.
Rudy.
I've been told that standing over here, I'm out of the frame. Am I good? Okay, can I start my time now?
Yes. You're pushing it.
Craig told me to stand over in the middle, so I was going to stand up in front, and I'm comfortable doing that if that works. I don't want to get in your faces here. This is an interesting question. I have actually been involved with uncovering fraud in a couple of instances. One of them was about a $2.5 million fraudulent activity at a police department where I used to work. And we were able to dig in and find that information and find the fraud and bring the perpetrator to justice. I will tell you that I've never been pressured to not report fraud. In fact, one of the things that I stand by, my teams do not sacrifice integrity for any reason. My teams have high values and strong ethics and independent standards. So as a CPA, we learn to be independent. And I will never be pressured to swipe something under the rug. If I find something that needs to be changed, we're going to change it. And I don't really care. And people may try to pressure you, but I don't really care. They can go on, but it doesn't matter. There's just blah, 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 blah. Because that's not what I stand for. I believe that everybody makes mistakes. But what I believe is what is the true measure of somebody is what they do once they've made a mistake. You don't sweep it under the rug. You stand up for it. You fix it. You go for it. Now, fraud, I cannot tolerate at all because that's your taxpayer dollars.
10 seconds.
I cannot stand for that, and I will do everything I can to protect you and me and my tax dollars as well. Thank you.
really good question. In my case, I have been involved in some fraud or wrongdoings at a city level. Those were employees that were let go, and I really can't talk about it, but be assured that when that happened, I did not stop them. They were leaving. And there were just a couple of times with different issues. Now, when I ran for city council, I went through and looked at the city budget. I put it in a spreadsheet, and I went through it line by line. I consolidated it, and I found a $400,000 problem. Well, rather than just make a big deal about it, I went and I talked to the staff, and I said, here's what I found, and it was a clerical error. It was understandable, so it got resolved. I never brought it up. So I think when you uncover things where there are clerical errors, rather than trying to throw somebody under the bus, you just fix the problem, move on. That happens in audits. We have city audits, and sometimes they say, well, you shouldn't be doing it this way, and so we just change. They're not a tool to condemn and hurt people. Now, if there's fraud, I despise it. It's public money. It's your money. It's my money, and I can't abide it. But in the case of the experience I've had, I've dealt with it appropriately, and I think in all cases going forward, it will be treated the same way. I don't get pressured by other people.
Time. Thank you. Now we start with Rudy. Rudy, if there was an allegation of harassment or misconduct against one of your employees in the auditor's office or against you yourself, how would you handle it?
Is this 1 minute?
1 minute.
Harassment needs to be taken seriously. However, it needs to be investigated properly as well. So if there were an allegation of harassment in my department, I would immediately start working with the human resources people, because they're the professionals that know how to deal with these kind of issues. Now, and we would take that through the whole process and figure out what was wrong and come to the right conclusion. If there were threats against me, I'd be actually shocked, because that's just not me. But I would start looking at where those things come from. I would talk to human resources people. We would go through the investigation, and ultimately I would be cleared of it, because that's just not the way I am. And so you just go through the right channels and let things move forward and get done in the right way. You do not bring it out into the open. You do not shame. You do not defame. You go through the proper channels that are behind closed doors usually, so that
10
protect
seconds.
the innocent.
We actually had an instance of this in Highland, and it was one of the senior staff that was accused of harassment. What we did is we put one of the parties on a paid administrative leave. We hired an HR attorney from up north that had no connection with our city. She investigated it thoroughly. She did a report. We met in closed session with council and went through it, and we made a determination, and we did what was right. It was interesting in this case that the person making the allegations had actually done other things that were wrong, and they were the ones that ended up leaving. But you just have to go through the process. And like Rudy said, it has to be kept quiet until it's done, because you can ruin somebody's life with an improper allegation. I take those seriously, and I would follow up on it. If it was me, same process. Put me on administrative leave or put me somewhere else and hire an attorney to investigate me.
I know not a lot of people will think this, but one of the things I love is being a government administrator. My brain just ticks that way. But one of the less than favorable things that comes with working in politics is there's a lot of mudslinging, kind of backbiting, this type of stuff. And you have to be very careful when we approach these situations. I've had to deal with this since I came in as chief of staff. The first thing that I always do is I give people the benefit of the doubt. I personally believe, and I will never back down from this, people are innocent until they are proven guilty. Our system of justice is built upon that, and we work through appropriate channels to address these issues with the tact and discretion that they deserve. That's what we did. I found out about something. We put this person on a work from home until we could get more information. Eventually it was resolved with HR, and the situation took care of itself.
10 seconds.
But once again, in my opinion, a person is innocent until they are proven guilty, and politics has the unfortunate characteristic of often trying to jump the gun when it comes to that.
Thank you very much. Okay, a little bit more lighthearted question. Each of you are required to say one thing that you admire about the other two candidates. We're starting with Rod.
I like Taylor's youth and enthusiasm. I think that's commendable, and that he's chosen to get involved at an early age in government. I think that's commendable. I like Rudy's, I don't want this to be an assertiveness and confidence. I really appreciate that. And I like working with people that are straight shooters. People that filter a lot of their words and shade them based on who they're talking to. They're hard to trust, and Rudy's a person I believe I would trust.
Well, this is too easy. Rod and Rudy have great hair. I actually don't know Rod very well, but from having spoken with many people about him, every person says that he is just a great, down-to-earth guy, salt-of-the-earth kind of thing. And that's every person I've ever spoken to that said that about you, so that's a sincere compliment. Working with Rudy, Rudy has a passion and just drives. One of the things about having him on my team is that he really just pushes people to be their best self. He has this big picture of what he wants to achieve, and he goes out and fights for it. It's been a pleasure working with him in the auditor's office.
So is this the 90-second time limit?
No, 60.
Oh, okay. I don't know Rod. I've just heard of him by reference, but I will tell you one thing that I like about him is that he took the time out of his life to be a city council member and a mayor. That is really important for our community. And I really appreciate that, and I respect that. Now, Taylor is absolutely fantastic. I love working with Taylor myself. And I have a son named Taylor, so it kind of goes, that's a natural thing here. And I don't want this to come off wrong, but I'll tell you, if I end up being the victor in this race, I admire Taylor so much that I would beg him to be my chief of staff going forward, because he's very good with the organization, he's very good with helping us to get things done, and he's just a good person to work with.
This time we're going to start with Taylor. You'll have a minute to answer this question. I don't think it should take that long. Sometimes Republicans don't like it when they lose in the convention or the primary, and then they don't support the candidate in the general election. If you are not chosen, will you support the winner of the Republican primary election in the general election?
I guess this should go without saying, but I don't think the Democrats have a good chance of winning an election in Utah County. I've been a registered Republican my whole life. Don't plan on changing that ever. And I have supported Republican candidates across the board, and I will continue to do so, win or lose.
My turn?
Yes.
I think that if I don't win, I'll probably go home and cry. But seriously, I'm in this race because I love Utah County, and I want the best for this county. I am passionate about this county, really. We came here a couple of years ago, and we love it here. It's a place where 3 of my 4 kids are, and I want the best person. Now, I think I'm the best person. I think I'm the most qualified technically. But if the voters choose that they want to have an administrator instead of a technician and somebody that's there, then I will support that. And I will support that person all the way and work well with that person going forward. I need to. It's going to be my boss if I don't win. So I'm very grateful. I mean, I will definitely support that person all the way through, and I'll campaign for him.
I think that was a trick question, Joe, because no other party has a candidate running for auditor. So I will definitely support the candidate because it'll be the only candidate. But in truth, I like the Republican Party. I think it's a place, I know some people leave it because they're unhappy with one thing or another, but where else can you go where you can have influence? And if you walk away from influencing it the way you want to go, we never get what we want all the time. So if any of these other gentlemen are elected nominee, they will have my full support in the election and afterwards.
Thank you very much. In 2019, the county commission enacted a very large property tax increase. What are your thoughts on that? Good, bad, medium, yes, no? We start with Rudy on this one.
You started last time.
Get the easy one.
Yeah, no, he started last.
Rudy starts.
So I get to start here. Tax increases aren't something that should be taken lightly. One thing that I believe is that if there's going to be tax increase done, it needs to be done with a lot of thought, with a lot of analysis, and looking forward to the future. Not only what the needs are today, but what our needs are in the future. I wasn't here when that tax was enacted, that increase, but I was here and helped pave the way for the commission. We provided information for them, including 10-year projections, that allowed them to make a tax reduction last year. So I think that is something that you need to really look at. It's easy to say no taxes, but in all honesty, we got to make sure that the county can be solvent as well. And so I believe in fiscal conservatism, but I also believe that the other side of that is fiscal responsibility. We need to be responsible for what we do.
10 seconds.
And so I would never take it lightly, but I would give the good information so the commission can make their decisions.
The previous mayor in Highland said conservatives pay for what they use. And I thought that was a really good comment. And I don't have a strong opinion that the previous tax increase was good or bad. I do have a strong opinion that I think they could have done a much better job socializing it, going out and doing town halls. I think you take your time on those and you do it the right way. It's sometimes people feel like I got to do this, and so they do the right thing in the wrong way, and that usually in government turns out to be bad. So in this case, I would say I think they had good intentions. I think people have good intentions. You have to assume that. But they did it the wrong way, and if they'd have been more thorough, we'd have had less contention in the county about it, and maybe the taxes would have been lower at the end of the day. So
10 seconds.
That's my answer. And again, conservative people pay for what we're going to use, and if we don't want something, then let's not pay for it. But if we do, we need to pay for it.
I'm a little bit irritated. I wish somebody would have attacked me so I had a 30-minute rebuttal, because that's how much time we need to answer this question. There is, you can't answer this in 60 seconds. The county had not raised taxes in 29 years. 29 years. With inflation, with the way that floating tax rates work, property taxes had essentially remained stagnant for years on end. You can't afford to do the things that you need to do without keeping some sort of rate. Even with that tax increase, we're still way in the bottom half despite being the second largest county. Rudy's position was a result of that tax increase. Now, I'm going to come back to the same thing I've come back to. You guys are here about the entire campaign. We do not have the data at the county to fully assess what we do and do not need. As your auditor, my primary focus will be getting the information to make decisions that are going to lead to long-term outcomes. Utah County is changing dramatically. We need the data to make good decisions.
Thank you very much. Next question, we start with Rod. Thank you. What is your opinion on the salaries for county commissioners, auditor, and the other elected county officials? About right? Too high? Too low? Or any opinion you have on that, please?
I actually don't have an opinion, a strong one. When I was mayor, I was making $950 a month, and I treated it like a full-time job. So whatever is more than that is okay with me. Right? If there's benefits, that's even better. But I think what we would need to do is look at what the other county commissioners in the state are paid and determine whether we're in line with that. Now, I did a lot of homework about a year and a half ago. You can go to my blog and look at it. It's something to do with county government. And I had all the data, I just don't remember it, for how much county officers make. I believe ours were on the lower end. But I don't know if it's fair. I think, you want good people. Sometimes you get what you pay for in life.
10 seconds.
So I don't have a strong opinion other than we should look at it and make sure that it's fair. right? It needs to be fair. It shouldn't be on the high side. It should be on
Time,
the low
thank
side.
you very much.
So the county commission actually just went through this process to do a comparison and check county salaries. But I can tell you across the board that Utah County very much underpays. It's a huge problem that we're dealing with, trying to retain people in the sheriff's office. The sheriff would be happy to talk to you about the challenges they're facing. I see him nodding his head back there. So I'm not going to pine about whether whoever wins is making enough money or not enough money. That's a commission decision. But I will say this. Whatever your opinion on Congressman John Curtis is, one of the things I admired the heck about him was when we were going through a recession, he opted in to cut his own salary, and he didn't accept a raise until the county council put that forward. I don't know what the future holds. I have a lot of concerns about the state of the economy, not in Utah, but nationally, and I have big concerns that that's going to seep into our state eventually. If we experience a recession like we did in 2008, that I feel like is coming down the pike, I will definitely personally cut my own salary to be in line, because we're going to have to make cuts across the board, and that's a commitment to you.
Time.
Well, I didn't get any applause last time, so I think I need to say something worthy of applause this time, I imagine. I honestly think that in some areas, we need to be competitive with the state. I also am thinking about our sheriff back there. I'd love to have him get paid, what might be a better salary, but if that's what the commission set, that's what it is. Personally, I'm not running for this office to make more money. I'm running for this office because I'm completely passionate about being the best auditor we could be. But I think we need to be very sensitive and make sure that the auditors' salaries, the commission salaries, and all the elected salaries are commensurate with those that are around the state, because you do need to have good quality people running. And if the salaries are too low, you can't get good people in to run for those offices generally. But it shouldn't be exorbitant. It should be what, I've taken a pay cut to come here, and because I love being here. And I think that we need to look at keeping those things in line with the conservative values that we have.
Now we start with Taylor, I believe. The question is, tell us about time you made cuts and how you'd go about it and how you'd do it. Is it politics? Is it performance? Or what? How would you go about making cuts or suggesting cuts?
Just give me a soapbox for data-driven decisions here. I can give you a small example, actually just last week, to kind of highlight where my head's at so you guys know the kind of auditor you're going to get. This isn't a huge cut. It was only about $300 a year, right? So we have a water system like most people. We have a water provider that comes in. You get your drinking water. Well, the contract was up, right? So we're out of this contract. What do? I got an employee over here that sparked this. Is great. So what do? Well, we look around. Well, do we need this water thing, right? Do we need to have bottled water in the office? If you go into the hallway, we've got a drinking fountain like most people do in their businesses now that you can fill up your water bottles, right? So it's just not a need, right? When I think of government, I think of the proper role of government. The proper role of a county government is not to provide water for bottled water. It's unnecessary. It's to provide police forces. It's provide protection, your jail, right? Provide essential county services. So we will continue to look for cuts big and small.
Thank you very
as
much.
Needed.
I love this question actually, because people that know me will know that I will be tighter with the budget for the county than I would for my own personal household. If I wouldn't spend it in my house, I won't spend it here. And I agree with that water. I had that question come up in my own mind, said, I don't want to have the water here. The interesting thing, and then I lost my train of thought of what I really wanted to say. We need to analyze where we are, and one of the things that we're trying to do with the county and that I want to push forward is performance measures, and we want to be looking at people that are utilizing our resources properly. Sometimes we need to make cuts, and if we need to make cuts, it can be tough. I went through a place where we got cut about $15,000 a year salary for 3 years. That hurt, but it was necessary to get us through the 2008 recession. And if we have to make tough cuts, we will. I try everything we can to take out some of the fat. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. One of the areas that I'm working with is areas where we might be able to use our current resources, but in a different way. like some of the sheriff's overtime and salaries that they're saving, use them for the benefit of what they need today to do their
Time.
operations.
Thank you very much.
So one of the ways we helped reduce costs in Highland is there were services that we did in-house that we ended up outsourcing, like our street sweeping. We had a street sweeper, it was broken, expensive, and rather than buy a new sweeper, we just outsourced it. And it saved us money, still got the job done. So there are opportunities to cut with just doing those kind of changes. As a person in the tech world, I inherited a department, we lost an employee and we didn't replace them. And yet somehow we went from generating $90 million a year in revenue from our partners to $220 million. And the way we did that was we got data, we figured out what the key partnership classes were and where we should focus our time, and we ended up limiting the number of partners we worked with and tripled our revenue almost. Just because of making data-driven decisions like Hale likes to do.
Time. My vote. Okay, so now we are starting with Rudy on this one. This is nerdy stuff, but it's important. The auditor oversees purchasing. Have you ever set or created purchasing policies, and how can you get the best bang for the dollar for purchasing? I mean, it's easy to buy the cheapest thing. You also have to balance that against getting the best thing and the thing that adds the most value. So how do you balance that with purchasing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We actually just went through some revisions to our purchasing policy. That's one thing that we've done here recently. Yes, for good things, we've done that. One of the ways that we look at things is we go out to bid on things that are in certain dollar limits. There's some things that are just too small. It doesn't really make sense to use the time to go out and look at them. But, as I said before, I treat this budget more tighter than I do my own. We go out and we do bids, and we get quotes for different things so that we can make sure that we're getting the most quality and the most bang for our buck. Unfortunately, sometimes our policy says you have to go with a low bidder. And there are companies out there that will bid low and give crappy service, or then all of a sudden they want to upsize that after you got the contract done. And so we try very hard to avoid that. What we want to do is have a fair process where we can get people getting honest, good bids so that we can work with that.
There are statutory requirements for purchasing when you're a government agency. And so you have to look at vendors, they have to have certain assurances in order for you to work with them, which means you're not going to get the cheapest price. But like you said, sometimes you get with what you pay for. So in the purchasing world, your purchasing policies can make a difference. And one of the things like we do in Highland was when we did a road out, and those are expensive projects, and the low bidder came in, we would talk with him and make sure that he was qualified, that he could do the things that he said he could do, and if we felt uncomfortable with that, we could point to good reasons, we'd go to the next highest bidder. Anyway, we've gotten in trouble before because we went with a low bidder, so we found ways to make sure that low bid was really going to give you the quality
10 seconds.
that you wanted. I would make sure that we're doing those kinds of things, and if we can optimize, do it, or if we need to have some legislative changes, we would work on that too.
Time.
Purchasing policy, now we're really getting there. We just went through a huge revamp of our purchasing policy, dug into the data, found out where we're spending essentially more money trying to administer the process than we're actually saving on the back end. In a previous life, I was the chief of staff to the CEO of a billion-dollar tech company, and I actually worked with Mac Sims. And Mac knows that I'm an efficiency freak, right? So in my mind, what we want to do is maximize, minimize. I want to maximize the value of the employees in my department so I can make sure they're focused on the things that provide the greatest value to the county. Tax saving measures, increasing operational efficiency, improving outputs, right? The things that actually move the needle. Becoming granular on, we're going to go spend 5 hours at $75 an hour to save $6, it's a waste of money, right? So you have to take a big picture approach to make sure we're being commonsensical with the way we're approaching these things, but to save taxpayers' dollars on the back end also.
Thank you. This is a hopefully a reflective question. You know, if you win this job, you have no boss for 4 years. You know, these are your bosses. We get one chance. And there have been maybe a couple of county commissioners elected that people subsequently regretted. Potentially, there's one that found time to engage in some real shenanigans and got some criminal charges brought against them because of it. You know, are you going to be there every day? Are you going to work remotely? You know, a lot of people like to work remotely these days. You know, how many hours do you think is reasonable? You know, I hope you aren't planning on working 90 to 100 hours a week, but you know, 30 probably isn't acceptable. You know, tell us, you know, how devoted you would be to, would you have another job? You know, or would this be your only full-time job? So tell us, you know, how much time and devotion would you give this? Would you have any other pursuits or investments or other things that be taking your time? And we start with Rod on this one.
Well, I can point you to my last 4 years as mayor. Like I said, I was making $950 a month, and I spent 40 to 70 hours a week at work. I treated it like a full-time job. This will be a full-time job. I don't think I'm going to work 140 hours a week, but I will spend time in the office. I came to the office almost every day, and I came on Fridays when the office was closed. So you just ask anybody in Highland, ask the staff there. I have a track record, and you don't have to guess what I'll do. You know what I'll do because I've done it.
I'm going to be the same person I've been since I came in this role as the current chief of staff. I'm going to show up. I'm going to love my job. I'm going to come in. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to try to provide leadership and foresight for the office, the same things I've been doing since I came in. And I believe that Rudy would actually attest to that. If I was working 90 hours a week, I would be missing because my wife would have killed me. So don't have that expectation. Yeah, I'm going to do the same thing I've been doing. I love my job. I love working in government. I love focusing on things that I feel make a huge impact in your guys' lives. I don't want to pay more tax dollars than I have to. And I feel like there's a massive area of improvement within county government especially to improve the output that we haven't seen. Our economy is changing. Our county is changing dramatically. And we need to embrace those changes.
10 seconds.
And my background coming from a big tech company, my background working on these types of things, I feel is exactly what the office needs for the next 4 years.
I love my job. I love working for Utah County. I have never had so much fun in my professional life as I have working here. If you asked anybody in my team, they would know that I work harder than any other person on my team, and that would never change. Some of the duties would be different, but I would be working harder than just about everybody there. I'm a little bit sensitive to this topic right now because we've had a clerk auditor office. So the clerk, we haven't had somebody dedicated to audit. And so our head person has had to spend a lot of time working on elections, on clerk issues, on other things. And so we haven't seen him in our office very often, though he's been working in other places. I want to be there every single day. I will be, you know, I never count the hours. It's getting the job done that really matters. Honestly,
10 seconds.
I've never worked less than, 80-hour work week in years and years and years. So I'm going to be a hardworking, hands-on manager.
This next question is also a bit more personable. Some people criticize Senator Hatch for having a good personal relationship with Ted Kennedy. Some of the other Democrats, some people thought it was interesting that Justice Scalia had such a good friendship with Justice Ginsburg and got along well. There's no doubt that if you need to have a working relationship with the county commissioners. With that said, you're also independently elected of them. How can you balance that? How can you, effectively, work with them, but not be absorbed, by them, and still keep that arm's length relationship with the county commissioners, and maintain the independence of your office? We'll start with Taylor on this one. 1 minute each.
So there's just, in the course of politics, right, in government, there's going to be a disagreement. That's going to happen. I mean, it's impossible for people to just sit around and sing Kumbaya all the time, right? It's not going to happen. People have different perspectives. They have different opinions and beliefs. And in my opinion, that's a good thing. We should have differences and disagreements. But the way that you bridge that is you sit down and you say, okay, what are your priorities? What do you want to accomplish? What are my priorities? What do I want to accomplish? You build a Venn diagram and you work on the overlap. You start at the outset saying, what do we agree on? What can we work together on to solve? And you leave the disagreements, you put them off as long as possible, right? People know this about me. I will speak my mind. I'm going to stand up for the things that I believe in. And I've been doing that same thing for years and years and years, fighting political battles in Utah County and across the state. And that's not going to change.
I'm not a big person with New Year's resolutions, but this year I made one. And my resolution that I had is I was not going to speak bad of anybody no matter what, okay? And in the past, I've had some disagreements with people, but I've always felt that I don't care if you're friends with this person and enemies with this person, I can be friends with both of you. In my current position, I work with the commissioners regularly, constantly. Not as often as I would like to, but we're trying to push that agenda. Right now, I'm actually reaching out to the commissioners on a proactive basis so that we can start working together on things that will impact the budget later on. I don't really care who they are, as long as they're willing to talk and work with me, that's fine. We'll have differences of opinions along the way, and that's just natural and it's normal. But we don't have to be disagreeable. We need to get along, we need to get rid of this negative attacking discourse that's out there in our world today.
One of the things I'm known for in Highland on the council and as mayor is I've tamped down contention. I think it's destructive, it's counterproductive. One of the things I learned is when you are talking to somebody and they're upset, which happens a lot, you assume good intent. And that changes your frame of reference, at least for me it does. And that works to limit the contention. The other thing you can know about me is that I know all three commissioners, for example. I can talk to any of them. I have their phone numbers. I've talked to them before. And we've disagreed before. I ran against Amelia last year for the open commission seat. And I supported her afterwards, publicly. I disagreed with Bill Lee on Prop 9. And I waged a battle online.
10 seconds.
Saying my opinion. But I can call Bill and we're friends. So I think I will be independent and I can resist any pressure.
Time. Thank you very much. Okay, it's 8:03. In about 10 minutes, we'll have an hour. We're going to have one final round of questions. Each candidate, you're on the spot. We'll start with Rudy. We'll get to ask a question, and then they will not get to answer it, and we'll go to the next person, and they'll get to be the last person to answer the question, if that makes sense. Okay, so Rudy will ask a question, the first question, and then we'll go to Rod to answer it for 1 minute, and Taylor to answer it for 1 minute, and then Rudy to answer his own question for a minute. Okay. And then you'll each get 1 minute to make your best pitch on why we should vote for you, and then we'll be done. Thank you very much. So Rudy, ask your question, and if it gets beyond maybe 10, 15 seconds, I might take it out of your time.
Okay, that's good. I guess the question that I would have is I would ask the candidates what their professional capabilities, experience, and qualifications are for this job as a chief financial officer for the county of Utah.
Okay, we'll start with Rod.
As an executive in tech companies, I was involved in budgeting. I was involved in the due diligence process when companies I worked for were acquired, and that's essentially an audit. So I dealt with Ernst & Young and went through a really rigorous process. As a council member and mayor, I had to learn about the budget and how it works. And I participated in the audit process for those budgets every year and was part of the audit review every year. I'm very familiar with budgeting. I'm very familiar with finance. I'm not a CPA, but I know enough to ask questions, and I think demonstrably with John Dougal at the helm, who is not a CPA, he's really moved the needle on the state auditor's office. I think I can do the same on the county level.
So similar to what Rod said, once again, our current state auditor, our current county auditor, and the previous auditor, none of them are CPAs by trade. So what does this mean, right? Well, what do I look for in an elected official? I want somebody that's going to do two things. They have vision of where you need to be, not 4 years down the road at the end of their term, but 10, 20, 30, and 50 years down the road. Utah County is changing. You guys see it and you feel it. You feel it when you drive on the roads. You see it in the massive amount of houses that are going up. You need a candidate that has vision, right? Second, you want somebody that's going to hold to conservative principles and that's going to follow their gut on those decisions. And I have been that guy. I've worked with tons of you guys in the political trenches for years and years and years. Those are the same two things I'm bringing to the office: conservative principles and vision for the office.
I believe that I'm uniquely qualified to be the county auditor. I have more than 20 years of direct experience running finance operations. Now, it's been spoken that John Dougal is not a CPA, but John Dougal's office is different than our office. We are dealing directly with taxpayer funds. We are the ones that are determining what our budgets are going to be. And one of the reasons why the commissioners split the office is so that we would have somebody that was qualified to do the auditor side of the world. The last few people that have been in there, they've had auditor and clerk duties, and a lot of their focus has been on clerk. We need a professional finance person to fill that role for the county, to be that guardian of your taxpayer dollars, to be that chief financial officer, to be the person who can take care of the financial needs that we have here. And I don't believe that just having an administrator filling that position and paying them for us to do the work is the right thing for us to do as a county.
Time, thank you very much. Okay, Rod, what's your question?
So a question that I like to ask, actually privately, but I'll ask it publicly to people running for office, is tell me about a circumstance when you had to do the right thing that had a potential negative consequence for you, right? Those are tough decisions.
Yeah. Start with Taylor.
So some of you may be familiar with the SB 54 fight, right? This is the caucus convention system versus the signature gathering path. I spent 3.5 years of my life fighting for Utah's caucus convention system. And there are many people in the state of Utah that disagree with that. And I have some people that still don't like me, don't talk to me, don't appreciate that stance, because I fought for you guys to be here today, vetting these candidates and not buying your way to the ballot. I'm not going to back down from that. I own it. I think this process is highly valuable. This, to me, is what a Republican form of government is. It's you guys in your neighborhoods getting out and vetting candidates for public office.
I believe in independence, and I believe that independence is doing the right thing, standing on my own, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the consequences. And I believe that you have to do what's right for the county, no matter what. It doesn't matter what's right for me. What's right for the county is the most important thing. And talking about a circumstance, I mentioned it earlier. A year ago, I took on the county commissioners for something that I believe was completely wrong. And I believe that would have been detrimental to the county. Now, I personally could stand up to them, but I'm not going to be here forever. We need to look for the future. And so you have to stand up for what's right, and you have to stand up and look towards the future for the best interest of the county. You cannot just look in your own little world and think of what you want. But you have to go out there, you have to put your neck out on the line and stand up for what's right, and I will always do that for the citizens of this county, because you guys deserve it.
This is the tough question for me. At least I had some time to think about it. There was a time when a company that I was in the executive leadership for, we were sold to another company, and we had earlier acquired another company, and in the process there was an opportunity that the other executives wanted to do to diminish the shares that the company that we had acquired got out of this acquisition. I fought for them. It was bad for me. It diluted my shares personally, but it was the right thing to do. And so I prevailed, and my shares were diluted. Now, we're not talking million, we're talking maybe house down payment money, but it's not that big a deal. But I still did the right thing, even though it hurt me personally and hurt my family personally.
Taylor, you'd ask the last question of all the candidates.
Last question of the night. I think I want to ask, have you ran for public office before? And if so, why are you running for the county auditor now?
I have never run for public office. The only election I've ever run for was in 4th grade for the treasurer of my elementary school, and I lost, okay? I have never run for public office. I have not been involved in the system. I am so grateful that I live in this county where my voice can be heard. My conservative voice means something. My moral standing means something. I'm running for office. My wife asked me this question, why are you running for office? Is it for your own personal aggrandizement? I said, heavens, no. I'm running for office because I care so deeply about our department. I care so deeply about the county. I care so deeply about everyone around here, and I want to do the right thing so that I can protect this county for every single one of us, so that we can have a future, that your children can have a future, that my grandkids can have a future here, because we've taken business to care business today. That's why I'm running, because I love the county, and I want to be the county auditor.
I'm running because I've experienced it, and I think a lot of people have some feeling that there is a lack of trust between us and some county officials. I believe I can make an improvement on that. I did it in Highland. I believe I can move the needle on transparency and better community involvement in the county. I did that in Highland. I ran before. I won as a city council member. I ran as mayor after that. I didn't run for a second term, not because I wouldn't have got elected. All the council members wanted me to run again. And I got, why aren't you running again? And it was, no, I'm just not supposed to. No, I'm not running for this for anything other than I think I can move the needle. And I think one of the deficiencies we have in the county is trust, and I know I can build that because I've done it
10
before.
seconds.
So I actually didn't expect to be running for office. My plan was to continue to be chief of staff under Josh Daniels, and he had other plans, so here I am. When I was in college, like I said earlier, I studied constitutional law at the Center for Constitutional Studies at UVU, and it ingrained within me a deep respect for our founders and our framers and the principles that they believed in. I am an administrator at heart. I wouldn't run for county commission. I wouldn't run for county sheriff because that's not my skill set. My skill set is administration and leadership. That's what I've been doing my entire working career. And I am concerned about the way that we see government going at the state of Utah sometimes, Salt Lake County, and especially in Washington, D.C. I was born and raised in Utah County, next to these mountains, went to Orem High School, UVU, et cetera, et cetera. And I want to make sure that the county that I grew up in is the same proper role of government that I expect local government to
10
be.
seconds. Okay, take a big deep breath, breathe in, breathe out. You each will have 60 seconds to make a final pitch as why the voters should vote for you. Let me just say, I've been favorably impressed. I think we're very fortunate to have 3 strong candidates. You're making it deliciously hard. So well done. We will start with Rudy. You have 60 seconds.
I think you should vote for me because I don't want Taylor to be my boss anymore. No, seriously, I believe very strongly that this is an auditor position and it should be filled by a financial professional. I believe that with all my heart, and I know that I will do a fantastic job if you elect me, because I understand government finance inside and out. I'm the only candidate here that's put together a tentative budget for the county. And believe me, I worked in cities, and cities are different than counties. I have the experience. I also have the personality. I have the ability to work at all levels, including with I've been on the executive team for years in my profession. So I know what it takes to get things done. And I am so passionate, and I believe that I have the qualifications for this, and I believe that we absolutely need to elect a financial professional to this position. Thank you.
With the right leadership, the Office of the Auditor can have a big impact on the county. With the right information given to the staff and the commissioners, they can make great decisions. I love data. I've been sharing it and gathering it and collecting it for years. I am not going to do the audits. I am not going to do the budget. But we have skilled people like Rudy to do that. I will get involved in direction. I will get involved in lobbying the commission for the things that we need. I think I can be effective there. I've demonstrated an ability to influence outcomes when I didn't have a vote as mayor. I think getting the public involved is important, and I truly believe it to the bottom of my heart that improving trust in government is critical to it functioning better in the future. And I have moved the needle there, and I'll do it again here, and that's what I want to do.
I remember as a youth going to the local orchards to volunteer to pick apples, right? They've paved those orchards over and put in houses. When I went to Orem High School, what feels like a decade ago, or a lifetime ago, excuse me, the school was so old that it had water dripping in the hallways being caught by buckets, right? They raised that building and built a new high school because of the growth and because of how old it was. And I remember years and years ago when Thanksgiving Point was literally the only thing at the point of the mountain, right? And now it's surrounded by literally hundreds of billions of dollars of tech sector money. Utah County is changing. We are not the same county that we were 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 30 years ago. And you guys see it and you feel it. Every day you're out and about. We need a vision for the future for Utah County. Without that, we are headed for some really hard times. Vision is what I bring. Conservative principles is what I fought for years and years. And many of you guys have fought in the trenches with me on those same political fights.
Aaron, how long do we have this room for? How long till we need to vacate it? Is it Noah or Craig?
Spring 2017.
Okay, well, all the candidates who are also here, will you stand up real quick and maybe raise your hand? Who is running for office? I'm sure anyone running for office would love to talk to you as well. I'm sure they would love to talk to you as well. Even if we get booted out, you can always go out to the street and talk. Just try not to block any traffic. And thank you very much.
And we won't go back. There's no value, so we will work. And I believe my marriage will let me down, but that's not. The voters will tell, won't they? Excellent job.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. I was impressed.
This is one of your superstars. You're kind. But you're consistent about it. Yes, equally rude, equally offensive. So did you get dinner? I did. My daughter even made it tonight. Stuffed peppers. Yes. No. Okay. Yeah. Rice paper. I'll get there. I'm not a delegate. Get out of here. We'll talk to her.
I'm Bartholomew, precinct chair down in Payson.
Wow, you came a long way. I'm impressed.
I was wondering if you had an opinion on mail-in voting or anything like that.
I personally don't like it at all. Vote by mail only, I don't like it. We fought it in Highland when it was optional, or we had to do it. And that has to be worked at the state level, right? It's a
state code now. But I really don't like it. I think it leads to a lot of chain of custody issues. So
Yeah, I agree. Cool. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
yes,
Compliment about the free.
yes, okay.
No, I have a really thoughtful question. Oh, good. I worded that one about, we gave a lot of like, questions and
well, you know, we have to do this thing, or whatever, and say, look, these are the same kinds of principles. One of my favorite classes when I was in college is we looked at these continental governments from Rome to Greece to Italy to Germany, all the way to the States. What were the principles that they put in their constitutions? Magic content. And those principles to me are far more important that's what I No, it doesn't. It's just something that I felt in my life I want to have the most important thing to be the most important. I say, hey, I'll pledge allegiance.
Adam Bartholomew, precinct chair down at Payson.
Nice to meet you, Adam.
Do you have an opinion on, real quick, on mail-in voting, or
of course?
Do you have an opinion on mail-in voting or voter ID?
So as an auditor, I don't oversee any of those things.
Yeah, I understand.
There was a misunderstanding that the audit team can actually audit elections. That's not the case. So you'd have to hire an outside firm to do that type of thing. So on the audit side basically doesn't oversee.
I mean, do you have like a personal opinion on it?
Yeah, I guess I don't think it's relevant to my position on this. So,
okay.
Is this a sticking point for you?
Yeah, it is a little bit. I'm just curious.
Interesting. Do you know would you mind expressing what the concern is?
Well, I come from Washington, and where we went from 40% mail-in vote in 2004 until the governor's election, went full mail-in vote, and it's never had a chance with any Republican ever since. And Utah's the only red state with all mail-in voting, and so it's one of the concerns of mine.
Yeah. So there's enough
chain of custody, so like that.
Yeah. So being in the elections office, that's half of my job, right? Overseeing elections. I can tell you that there is a ton of safety measures in place that the public doesn't know about, right? The other thing is mail-in voting actually saves a lot of money. People don't realize how much money mail-in voting actually saves. I'm a conservative Republican. I'm a fiscal conservative. if I can do the same process securely, to your point, right, with better results and save money, I'm going to pick that every day of the week, right? And I have yet for somebody to come show me an example in Utah County. I'm not going to speak for Salt Lake. Sure as hell I'm not going to speak for Nevada or Georgia or wherever else, right? Utah's basically been the preeminent lead on voting. We've run national awards, our office and the state as a whole, on mail-in voting. I recognize there's a number of concerns, but if you want to come down, I would gladly take you on a tour of the ballot. I can walk you through the whole process. You can see the safety process or the safety measures that are in place. You have your phone on you? We're actually having some open houses to go over ballot stuff upcoming, and you're more than welcome to come. So send me a text message, 801-856-7526.
Cool, thank you.
Adam.
Adam.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Look to see you at the ballot center.
Yeah, definitely.
But what I am, what I put in there was, my daughter got ballots.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, got 4 ballots. So people have rented and left. And nobody.
Oh, so not 4 ballots, not 4 ballots.
How you doing, sir? Good. Thanks for keeping me informed. No problem. Appreciate it.
We were talking about I stood over I hope I will. I feel so. I feel from the bottom of my heart. Oh yeah. I'm tired of I love
Yes. You're fine.
I would agree with you 100%. It's ironic though, because when I left school, if somebody told me I was going to be in local government, I would have laughed at them, because I thought local government was different. I love working for government. I love interior government. I love working for government finance because I get to benefit the people within my work, they live, and everything. It's a calling for me. It isn't a job; it's a calling, and I love it. My wife says, "Don't you know?" I said, "Yeah, I am passionate because I truly love my job. I truly love what I'm doing."
That's why I realized that the opposite of side was going to be fun. And being smart. So how wisdom having the wisdom all the out because I feel like people don't know the difference because we have a whole life. And so maybe focus on and I would tell you, my belief, I honestly believe that the county will be significantly stronger with these auditors and Taylor's my deputy. And because Taylor's got a lot to learn about local government. I love Taylor. He's fantastic. And if he ended up beating me, it wouldn't be my but I think we will be much stronger having these auditors with the finance side and Taylor helping to correct questions on the front. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Please share that
Adam, we're calling you. I'm a precinct chair down in Payson.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you.
I know it's not 100% related to the office you're running for. I appreciate you running, but I wonder if you had a personal opinion on mail-in voting or voter ID, stuff like that.
I would tell you that I believe that voters should present IDs when they vote. I worked at an election for the city of Santa Barbara, and I was told you may not ask for ID. So somebody comes in, you have no idea what they're doing, who they are, what they're doing. And I will tell you, there's a lot of people who say they don't like mail-in voting. because they say it's full of fraud. And I will tell you that either way you can have fraud. What really it comes to is what are your controls to prevent the fraud. I've been mail-in voting for years when I was in California. I did it for years. And you know, most of the time I would fill it out and then take it to the precinct and drop it off, to be honest with you. And I think it's a good thing, but it's really about the controls. I know the people in our elections office, I know the controls that are there, and they've got their act together in this area. Now, that may not be the case in other areas, but I know that you can. If you don't have somebody in our area, you have to have ID to get that ballot. If somebody tries to vote twice, it gets kicked out. Our system doesn't allow that. So you know, but if you're there in person and you can't ask for ID, I could say that I'm you. And it doesn't matter. Nobody knows the difference. And I think that's the problem. It's the controls on both systems that are super critical to making sure that we have fair elections.
Thanks for your comments.
Thank you.
Thanks for showing up.
I appreciate it.